The year is 1912. Europe is a continent balanced on a knife's edge. Empires are bloated with pride. Alliances are tangled like a spider's web. And in the southeast corner of the map, one of the world's oldest empires is rotting from within. The Ottoman Empire, once the hammer of Islam, the conqueror of Constantinople, the power that ruled 3 continents, has become a shadow of itself. The sick man of Europe, they call it now, and in the Balkans, the vultures are circling. In the dimly lit offices of Istanbul, Ottoman ministers argue over maps already out of date. The Young Turks, the revolutionary group that promised rebirth, have found themselves chained by the same disease that killed their predecessors: corruption, arrogance, denial. The empire's armies are underpaid, under-equipped, and unprepared for what's coming. On paper, the Ottomans still control vast lands: Albania, Macedonia, Thrace, but in reality, those lands are slipping away like sand through their fingers. Across the border, in the rugged mountains of the Balkans, 4 small nations are watching closely: Serbia, Greece, Bulgaria, and Montenegro. Once, they were Ottoman provinces, forced to pay tribute to Istanbul, their people ruled by foreign governors and foreign faith. But now, with nationalism spreading like wildfire across Europe, these nations dream of freedom and revenge. They form a secret alliance, a pact sealed not by trust but by shared hatred of their former masters. They call it the Balkan League. Their goal is simple: drive the Turks out of Europe once and for all. The Ottomans dismiss the threat. They are children, one general says. We've beaten them before, we'll beat them again. But behind the bravado lies fear. The empire's military machine, once feared from Vienna to Cairo, is broken. Its railways are unfinished. Its soldiers lack ammunition. Its generals fight each other more than the enemy. And when the storm finally comes, it comes with fury. October 8th, 1912. A gray dawn breaks over the Adriatic. In the mountain kingdom of Montenegro, artillery roars. Within hours, the other members of the Balkan League declare war. The First Balkan War has begun. Across a front stretching from the Danube to the Aegean, nearly 1 million men mobilize. The Balkans are on fire. The Ottomans, caught off guard, scramble to respond. Mobilization orders are delayed. Troops arrive at the front without boots, without food, without bullets. In Macedonia, young conscripts are told to hold the line with outdated rifles and empty stomachs. Their officers promise reinforcements that will never come. The enemy is already moving faster than anyone imagined. The first great clash comes at Kumanovo. The Ottoman army expects an easy victory over Serbia, but what they find is a modern army, disciplined, motivated, armed with new rifles and heavy artillery. The Serbs, hardened by years of guerrilla warfare, fight like men possessed. Within 2 days, the Ottoman front collapses. Thousands are killed, thousands more desert. The road to Skopje is open. In the west, the Greeks sweep through Thessaly and into Macedonia, their navy cutting Ottoman supply lines across the Aegean. In the north, the Montenegrins storm into Novi Pazar, and in the east, the Bulgarians strike like a hammer, 300,000 strong, advancing through Thrace toward the heart of the empire. Their target is not just victory, it's Constantinople itself. Inside the Ottoman command, panic sets in. Telegraph wires buzz with reports of disaster after disaster. The Sultan prays. The ministers argue. And the generals, many of them veterans of older, slower wars, cannot comprehend the new pace of battle. The empire that once besieged Vienna now can't even defend its own borders. By late October, the Bulgarian army reaches the town of Lula Burgas. The Ottomans make a stand. It became the largest battle Europe has seen in a century. Over 350,000 men face each other across fields turned to mud. Artillery pounds without pause. The sky glows red from the fires. For 4 days, the armies tear each other apart. When it's over, the Ottoman line is shattered. The Bulgarians march forward, unstoppable. Refugees pour into Constantinople, tens of thousands of them, carrying what little they can. Women, children, old men, the remnants of an empire on the run. The city that once ruled the world trembles as a sound of cannon fire echoes just 100 miles away. For the first time since 1453, the Turks fear their capital may fall. But the Bulgarians too are bleeding. Their supply lines stretch thin. Winter approaches, cold and merciless. Disease spreads in the trenches. Soldiers sleep in frozen mud, their boots rotting from their feet. Yet they push on, driven by a dream centuries in the making. In December, they reach Satalka, the final defensive line before Constantinople. From its hills, the domes of the city are visible on the horizon. The world holds its breath. Inside the Ottoman trenches, soldiers whisper prayers. Many are farmers from Anatolia who have never seen Europe before. Their commanders know that if they lose here, the empire dies. They fight like cornered wolves. The Bulgarian artillery opens fire. The Ottomans return with everything they have left. For 2 days, the earth itself seems to shake. When the smoke clears, neither side has won, but the Bulgarians are too exhausted to continue. Constantinople is saved for now. In the capitals of Europe, diplomats scramble. Britain and Russia fear the collapse of the Ottoman state will spark a wider war. They call for peace. By December 1912, a ceasefire is declared. But even as the ink dries, the Ottomans know peace is a lie. The empire has lost nearly all of its European territory. Albania has declared independence. Macedonia is gone. Thrace is burning. The only question left is how much further they will fall. Negotiations begin in London, but while diplomats talk, soldiers keep dying. On the front lines, both sides dig in through a brutal winter. Frostbite kills more men than bullets. Entire villages starve. Disease sweeps through the camps. Cholera, typhus, dysentery. The war that was supposed to be a quick liberation becomes a nightmare. By spring, the truce collapses. Fighting resumes, fiercer than ever. In March 1913, the Bulgarians finally capture Edirne, Adrianople, the city that had been under Ottoman rule since the days of Mehmet the Conqueror. The fall of Edirne sent shockwaves through Istanbul. Crowds gather outside the sublime port, screaming for answers. The empire's humiliation is complete. Centuries of glory erased in a single telegram. Edirne has fallen, but even as the Ottomans drown in defeat, their enemies begin to fracture. The Balkan League, united by hatred, divided by ambition, starts tearing itself apart. Serbia and Greece demand more land. Bulgaria, drunk on victory, claims it all. The alliance that destroyed the Ottomans is now collapsing under its own greed. In June, the Second Balkan War erupts. Bulgaria turns on its former allies. Within weeks, the fighting spreads again across the peninsula. This time, the Ottomans see an opening. From their bases in Asia Minor, they launch a counterattack into eastern Thrace. It's a desperate gamble, but it works. The Bulgarians, fighting on too many fronts, crumble. Ottoman troops re-enter Edirne to scenes of wild celebration. The Sultan declares it a divine miracle, but it's hollow triumph. The empire has reclaimed a city, not its power.
When the final treaties are signed, the Ottoman Empire has lost 83% of its European land. Over 4 million Muslims have fled the Balkans. Villages that once prayed to Mecca now pray to Belgrade or Athens. The empire's dream of Europe is finished. It is an empire of refugees now, limping toward the grave. But history isn't done with the Ottomans. The defeat in the Balkans sets off a chain reaction. Inside the army, young officers, men like Enver Pasha and Mustafa Kemal, vow revenge. They believe the empire fell not because of fate, but because of weakness. They swear to rebuild it through strength, discipline, and blood. When the Great War begins a year later, those same men will lead the empire into a new inferno. The First Balkan War was more than just a regional conflict. It was the prelude to the First World War, the opening chapter of the 20th century's chaos. The great powers saw the Ottoman collapse and realized how fragile the old order truly was. Within 2 years, the same guns that roared in Thrace would thunder in the trenches of Flanders. For the people who lived it, the war left scars that never healed. Villages burned. Families vanished. Borders shifted overnight. Christians, Muslims, Jews, all caught in the storm of nationalism and revenge. The Balkans would never be the same again. Neither would the empire. In the end, the fall of the Ottoman Empire wasn't a single event. It was a slow, painful unraveling. The First Balkan War was just the moment the world finally heard the sound of it breaking. After centuries of conquest, the empire that had once threatened Europe died not by invasion, but by disintegration, from the inside out. And yet, amid the ruins, something new began to stir. Out of defeat came revolution. Out of humiliation came resolve. The young officers who watched their empire collapse would one day lead the fight to build a republic. The old world was dying, but in its death, a new one was being born. As the sun sets over the Bosporus in the winter of 1913, Constantinople glows in twilight. Minarets pierce the fading sky. The call to prayer echoes over waters that have seen 1,000 years of empire rise and fall.
In the palaces, the sultans pray for mercy. In the streets, soldiers light cigarettes with trembling hands. Somewhere in the distance, the faint rumble of cannons fades into silence. The empire is not yet dead, but it is dying, and the men who will bury it are already waiting, sharpening their knives in the darkness. History records the battles, the treaties, the borders, but the true story of the First Balkan War is simpler and far more human. It's a story of pride turned to ashes, of forgotten soldiers fighting for a dying flag, of ordinary people caught between the dream of freedom and the nightmare of war. The Ottoman Empire had lasted 600 years. It would not survive another decade. And as the world moved toward 1914, no one realized that the echoes of those Balkan hills, the thunder of artillery, the cries of the lost, were the first sounds of a century of destruction.